We've been fighting a long time, and we have all lost so very much, so many loved ones gone. But you are not alone. There are pockets of resistance all around the planet. We are at the brink. You have no idea how important you are. If you're listening to this, you are the resistance.
Ave Maria Stella, Dei Mater Alma, atque semper Virgo, Felix te porta.
Everybody, Steve with Sense Fidelity coming at you with another, I guess you say, book review or books review, because it's going to be many, kind of many, but we're focusing on one under the same author. You may have heard of him from time to time, Bishop Fulton Sheen. And we have Al Smith of Bishop Sheen today on with us because he's helped pushing these books forward. Al, good morning. How are you doing? Thank you for coming on.
Hey, Steve, it's great to be alive. And, you know, I'm indebted to Fulton Sheen for helping to save my soul. And so I figure I might as well return the favor and try to save a few more souls too, and talk about Sheen and his wisdom and his writing. So thanks for having me on.
No problem. You're welcome. Yeah, he was quite a writer. He had a bunch of DVDs. He was number one on TV. He didn't pitch for the Yankees, so that was one thing he didn't do. But
yeah. And I don't think
you go attracted to him or to do what you're doing.
Yeah, no. And again, I was going to say he didn't pitch for the Yankees, and I don't think he was a Yankee fan. I don't know. I mean, I never saw him with the pinstripes on. So,
well, I mentioned the Yankees because you got the KFC emblem behind you. They used to own Yankee Stadium. It was the first thing that popped in my head.
Really? Okay. Yeah. No, I just, one of these things, there's a lot, it's busy behind me. I got lots of affinity, of course.
I know busy.
Yeah. You know, and again, Jesus, Mary, Joseph, that's my hockey jersey. I'm a Toronto Maple Leaf supporter. And so we used to have a goalie called Curtis Joseph. And when the Toronto Maple Leafs traded him, we were quite upset. So I figure I would just replace the names of Jesus and Mary above. I would insert, I should say, these beautiful names. And so when I go to a hockey game, people see the names of Jesus, Mary, and Joseph. So it's my way of evangelizing, even at a hockey game. But like I say,
no, I bet some people think that's his first name.
Yeah, I know. But we're having fun. But you know what brought me to Sheen was just a God incident back in 2009. I was 48 years old at the time. I had never seen a Sheen video. I'd never read one of his books. And my wife and I were just dropping my daughter off at a small Catholic college. And I was getting my daughter into the dorm, making sure she was in good protective custody, like any good father. And my wife was in the library rummaging around, and there was a box of free books. And so she saw that word free, and she gravitated to the books, and she picked up a Bishop Sheen book called Peace of Soul. And we're driving home, and I said to her, what did you pick up? And she says, oh, a Bishop Sheen book. And I go, oh, who's he? And she opened up the book and started to read to me. And the very first line of that book was simply, unless souls are saved, nothing is saved. And when I heard that, I thought, boy, that's refreshing. Who talks about saving souls anymore? And so yeah. I was hooked because, I mean, in my youth, I hang out with the charismaniacs, I always call it, but, the charismatic group people. And of
You're
course,
right the first time.
Yeah, I know. My Baptist friends, my evangelical friends, like this whole idea of handing out Bible tracts and saving souls and bringing people to Jesus. I thought, right, we need revival. And so just that first line, unless souls are saved, nothing is saved. I was interested. And then when I went home, I looked him up on the internet, and I found that he wrote 66 books. And I thought, well, maybe there's a book for me. And I saw this one title called Victory Over Vice. And I thought, 7 Deadly Sins, I'll give it a try. I might have one or two of those that I have to kind of, get a handle on. And it was just a beautiful book where Sheen took the 7 last words that Jesus spoke from the cross. Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. This day you'll be with me in paradise. Again, took these words and attached them to the 7 deadly sins as the antidote. And I was just amazed. And I thought, wow, he is brilliant. And it was like a parish priest came up to my shoulder and just said, I'm going to coach you. If you give me just 10 minutes a day or a few minutes here and a few minutes there, I'm going to give you some pithy sayings. I'm going to help you become a saint. So we kind of did a pinky promise, made a deal. And I tell you, within a year, I had read like 12 of his books, and within 2 years, 24 of his books, and then with 3 years, 36 of his books. And I just couldn't get enough of Fulton Sheen. And I thought, I gotta share the love here. I gotta start promoting his writings. And so, I've been hosting a local radio show, since the late '90s in my sleepy little village. And I just went to the radio station. I said, could I replay some old Bishop Sheen talks and kind of bring him back on the air? And was able to secure some of his recordings and started to replay his stuff on the radio when the phone lines lit up. And I thought, wow, usually when I go in for my regular Catholic program where we pray the rosary and have our devotionals, the phone never rings.
Yeah,
But
they
when I
run away.
yeah, that's right. But when I played Fulton Sheen, wow, people called in and said, oh, I remember when he came to the stadium in 1974. Is he coming back into the area? It's great to hear his voice again. And I have to say, well, no, he passed away in 1979, but he still speaks truth. And he's just a great orator. And again, it was a show that just took off. It was a very popular with Catholics and Protestants alike. And the next thing you know, another radio station called me and said, could you share that show with us? And the next thing you know, I'm on 3 radio stations in Canada sharing Bishop Sheen's recordings. And so I tell you, it just went from there. And the next thing you know, I think I want to re-release some of his books and spend a bit of time with seminarians, just kind of gifting seminarians Sheen's writings, because I started to research Sheen's life. And he spent the last 10 years of his life when he retired from the bishop of being a bishop of Rochester. He said, I'm just going to work on the priesthood, because he knew the key to the renovation of the church and the salvation of souls was to renew the priesthood. And so he gave priestly retreats and talked about the holy hour. And so I thought, I'm going to do the same thing. I want a better church. And so I'm going to work in these seminarians. And so I just started to raise money and give Sheen books to seminarians and give them MP3 recordings, give them little thumb drives with Sheen's talks on them. And it's made a big impact. And many of the young seminarians and young priests now today, every so often you get one that has been cut of the same mold of Sheen. You could tell the way they preach and the way they interact. They've read Sheen. So again, my gift to the church. But again, I just found Sheen later in my life, and I thought, he's got the answer. He's got the answer. And so again, the radio show, the work with seminarians, and of course, the next thing you know, the Bishop of Peoria, Illinois, Bishop Daniel Jenke, has me on the phone saying, I'd like you to sit on the board of directors for the cause of Sheen's canonization. And so I got brought into the team that promotes Sheen's canonization. And so that's been a journey in itself. And
That's a book itself.
But God has a sense of humor, and people that know me know that I'm a village plumber. It's I'm the gas man, I'm this pipe fitter, and my nickname is the Pipe Padre, and that I get to be this local plumber that shares Sheen and some Catholic devotions on the radio. So God truly has a sense of humor. But again, I'm getting good at sharing Sheen. I've had over 10 years experience now sharing these stories. And I'll tell you, everybody has their own Sheen story. And this is what's beautiful. Everybody comes up to me at conferences, wherever I'm speaking, and they tell me about their personal Sheen story. And again, from meeting him or having him over to the house for dinner or seeing him at a conference or seeing him on television, everybody, it seems, has been touched by Archbishop Sheen, and including yourself, Steve. So again, I'll give you an opportunity to share some of your stories.
Well, I when I first came back in, that was on YouTube. There was a ton of Fulton Sheen, the TV shows, and I picked up was it Life is Worth Living, the CD set, and there was a job I was working in, was training for AT&T, selling the Yellow Pages. That was the hardest sell I've ever had, because think of the Yellow Pages. No one uses them except for Chinese restaurants and keeping your door open. I was selling the ads in that. I didn't do well, but I was in between Spartanburg and Atlanta. I was listening to Life is Worth Living. It was fantastic. And was it the 3 to Get Married? That I don't know why more of the the wedding groups at parishes don't hand that book out instead of the modern ones. Hand 3 to Get Married out. That will help the marriage people. That was a big kick in the keister on me. And I mean, Christian Social Principles. I mean, he didn't write it, but he wrote the foreword to it, and that was just, I tell everybody, vintage Sheen. And KeepTheFaith.org has all his MP3s, and I think I've listened to all of them. And yeah, it's, if you haven't, anybody, even I was born after he died, but you still see his TV shows, and they're apt for today. The books you're bringing back in, which we're getting into, they can be used for today as well, today's problems in a sense.
Right. And this is what I find is that he wrote on so many different topics. He can draw people in so many different ways. You mentioned 3 to Get Married, a book he penned in 1951. Again, he just kind of presents it to say, hey, if you want to have a chance at staying married, you got to bring God in. It's the man, it's the woman, and God. And so that whole concept of 3 to Get Married, it sounds novel, but it's so true and such timely advice. And so my mom and dad said that they read that book, before they got married, and they got married in 1957. So it's been used for years now, but it just got so many truths in it. And again, I mentioned Victory Over Vice, this beautiful book on the 7 deadly sins, and everybody's trying to work on, becoming a better person. And so Sheen knew that. And, one thing I always say is that Sheen had a bit of a secret weapon in that he listened to our confessions. He tried to have, a priestly ministry as much as he could, even though he had many big jobs, I like to say, within the church. But yet he still mixed it up with everyday Catholics, and not just Catholics, but Protestants. And again, he listened to their stories and heard their woes, and he was able to provide remedies for us in his writings. And so this is what's been so good. And so as I started to read through his 66 books, I started to see these different themes. And I thought, you know what? Everybody likes a consolidated version. Like, could you give me kind of, we call it Cole's Notes, or kind of just package it where I don't have to read all these books, but I can get the best of the best. And I started to do that. I thought, you know what? Fulton Sheen, he wrote so much on the 7 last words. And I went to Sophia Institute Press, and I love the work they're doing there as a publisher. And I said, I have this idea. I'd like to put a number of his books together on the 7 last words, and let's publish it. These books haven't been republished in 80 years, and I think they really need to see the light of day again. And they said, yes, let's do this. And so I put it together, I compiled it, and presented my manuscript to Sophia. And wow, that book, The Cries of Jesus from the Cross, was born. And it's in its 6th printing. It's 6th printing now, so we've sold out 5 times. It's amazing how that book has just touched people, especially during the Lenten season. I think it's kind of a natural read. But for people who are just trying to practice the virtue, or how to deal with difficult people, how to fall in love with the Blessed Virgin Mary, Sheen outlines that in the book. He covers it all. So this Cries of Jesus from the Cross, again, is 7 of his best books from his 7 Last Words series. And so put that out in 2018. And then, of course, not wanting to be a one-hit wonder, I had to come up with another idea that I thought was important. And everybody keeps asking me about prayer. And they say, Al, can you help me with, becoming a better, have a better devotional life? And, who can be my coach on that? And I said, well, Fulton Sheen, he wrote a lot about the Mass, of course, the Our Father, the Holy Hour, which of course was his mainstay, and for 62 consecutive years never missed a day of praying his Holy Hour. And so we reprinted his Holy Hour prayer book, his beautiful meditations, and then his little wartime prayer book. We took a lot of the wisdom from that, and so we made this book called Lord Teach Us to Pray. And so it's just this great collection of Sheen's writings on prayer. And so it was released in 2019. And so again, it is a mainstay for so many people who are just trying to have a good, solid prayer life. And so, these writings on the cross, these writings on prayer, I thought, what what can I do next to help the church and to help people in their journey? And, Fulton Sheen, he loved to put what I call roadmaps down. And of course, he scripted a catechism series in 1965. And you mentioned it, it's that Life is Worth Living catechism, these 50 lessons that he wanted to make sure that if people forgot what the Catholic faith was, hey, listen to these 50 audio recordings or read the book and you'll find it. But in 1962, Fulton Sheen wrote a book called These Are the Sacraments. And I thought, wow, every family should have a book on the sacraments. Because if you ask people what the sacraments are, they'll go, they'll stutter and fall. But Fulton Sheen wrote on the sacraments, and so I put that into a book that was called Sheen's Book of Sacraments, which is 2 books in one. It's his 1962 book, These Are the Sacraments, and his 1951 book, 3 to Get Married. Because what happens? A couple falls in love. Hopefully, they invite God into their relationship. They have their marriage sanctified. And then they have children, and then those children need to be raised in the sacraments. So now you have the perfect book for the family. 3 to Get Married. These are the sacraments. And so every home should have one of these books too. And so here I am. I've already got 3 anthologies now in people's hands, because the power of the cross, the power of prayer, and the power of sacraments. And I thought, you know what? God's love. Everybody needs a book on God's love. And I just went and looked at Sheen's writings and saw that he wrote a book in 1944 called Love One Another. And he penned it kind of at the end of the war. I think people were looking for a bit of a roadmap, saying, Fulton Sheen, can you give us some advice so we don't go into World War III? Like, can you kind of show us how to get along? And he did that. So in 1944, he wrote Love One Another. And then after the war was over, he thought, I got to give them some more wisdom on God's love. And he did a best of Fulton Sheen. It's a book called God Love You. And it's 245 quotes from 23 of his books, all on God's love. And so I grabbed that, put that into an anthology, and we called it The Greatest Commandment. So there is book number 4. And of course, just to keep everybody going, there will be a 5th anthology being released this summer. And it's been titled War and Peace, an anthology. It's Fulton Sheen's writings on communism, war, a peace plan, because people are asking. They want to know, what is this all about? And again, Fulton Sheen laid it out. He gave us the game plan. He unpackaged it, helped us to understand it. And so that will come out in June. And it's funny how Fulton Sheen's name in the Gaelic language, when you translate it, Fulton in Gaelic means war, and Sheen in Gaelic means peace. And so his name means war and peace. So I thought it was very appropriate to put together this collection of his writings and title it War and Peace, an Anthology. So there we go. And so that's been my, little recipe. I like to say I'm a pharmacist handing out prescriptions, but just putting together these anthologies with the help of Sophia Institute Press to just give everyone the best of Sheen and to help them in their journey. And so there's something for everyone. So again, we just tried to make it easy. Just make it easy. So
actually, my first book was Sheen's World's First Love.
Yes. Yeah. And of course, it's his writings on the Blessed Virgin Mary. And again, he's helped me a great deal to develop a devotion to the Blessed Virgin Mary, because I'm like so many other Catholics. Like, we know Mary's there, and we've seen the statues, or we all have rosaries, but do we really love Mary? Do we have a relationship with her? And Fulton Sheen kind of got my attention, because when he was talking about the 7 last words, he would point to the cross and say, who's at the foot of the cross? There's Magdalene, of course, weeping, St. John, and there's the Blessed Virgin Mary standing. And yet, she was suffering this great loss. She was losing her son because of the sins of the world. And he would start to kind of point to me and say, Al, remember, your sin put Jesus on the cross. And so Mary's losing her son because of your recklessness. How does that make you feel? How does that make you feel? And I started to just understand that my sin cost not just our Blessed Lord, but the Blessed Virgin Mary. almost to the point where I felt compelled to apologize to her, almost like a drunk driver that runs over someone's child. You wake up, sober up in the jail, and of course come to your senses and realize the tragedy. But then the apology comes, and so it was something similar. I just felt that, hey, I owned this death of our Lord on the cross, and she was the victim, the innocent victim. And when I apologized to her, my relationship with Mary just blossomed. I started to get it. My dad, whenever we'd make our mom cry, and I got 6 brothers, and there was times that we got our mom to shed a tear, my dad would say, "You go apologize to your mother.
Mhm.
You go get right with your mother." And so I give a talk called, "Get Right with Mary and Get Mary Right," and I think we need to brush up on really the role of the Blessed Virgin Mary and what she can do in our lives. And Fulton Sheen, in that book, The World's First Love, was really presenting Mary as, I want to say, one of the team members, that you can't leave home without her. And I love his one line that always I take with me every day: "Don't do anything that your mother would be ashamed of." So when I hit out the door every day, I thought, be a good son. Be a good son. Don't do anything that your mother would be ashamed of. So,
Yeah, I
with
mean, what you said about the sorrows. I mean, there was that one story I think it's Alphonsus brings up about the guy that had a devotion to Our Lady of Sorrows, but then went by a statue and noticed that there was 8 swords in her heart, and it ended up having a message come in his head is because of what you did last night that put that 8th sword in my heart, and immediately made him go to confession. Comes back and that sword was gone afterwards. Or
wow,
yeah, I mean, Fulton Sheen wasn't a pushover either. He was. I mean, that story about that one actress that was. I haven't been to confession in a while. He goes, "Don't worry, I'm not going to make you go to confession, and I'm not going to ask for your confession." And then when you walk by the confessional, poop, pop her in.
yeah, yeah, and again, he was always looking to try to save a soul. That was his mission. So, that 1949 book that said "Peace of Soul," unless souls are saved, nothing is saved. I really think that Fulton Sheen woke up every day saying, "Can I bring another soul to Christ? Can I inch even a Hollywood movie star closer to you, Jesus? Could I convert an atheist or a Muslim?" Again, the Jews loved him in New York, and of course, many people would just tune into his television broadcast, and of course, many Jews became converts to Catholicism because Sheen's love of the Scriptures, and also his enthusiasm for the faith. And so he didn't really play no favorites. He just said, "There's a soul. Let's try to bring that soul to Christ." And so I think he probably has hundreds of thousands, if not millions of souls to his record. I mean, we'll find out later, just how many souls he did bring to Christ. But again, he woke up every day saying, "What can I do?" Including his own soul. He was always working on his own soul too, and made mention of that. That he even said that I think one of the greatest surprises will be again when we get to heaven, that there'll be people there that we didn't expect to get there. There'll be people that we thought would be there that aren't there. But the greatest surprise is that I'll be there. He'll be there. So again, in his humility, he would still say, we have to work for heaven. Heaven is built on a hill. We have to climb. We have to climb.
That was a great point you made about having Mary with you at all times. Could you imagine watching a bad movie with that mindset that she's sitting next to you? Could you make her watch some bad movie or cussing or the way if you swear or lie or something, you're looking at her right next to you? Would she approve of all that?
Yeah, yeah, and that is true. I think that's what Sheen does is he really points to St. John and says, remember, he took her into her home, after they took, of course, our Blessed Lord down from the cross. From that moment, John took Mary into his home. And I'll say at men's conferences to the guys, I said, okay, I want you to live that too. Now, Mary's going to ride shotgun with you on the way home from the men's conference, and you're going to make a place for her in your house, and you're going to let her live in you, with you, okay? And again, yeah, I know you're going to play hockey on Tuesday night, and you're going to bring her to the hockey game, and she's going to be in the stands cheering for you. but she wants to come up to the restaurant after 2, and so you think you're going to have 6 beers or 2 beers, knowing that your mother's beside you. And then when you sit on the computer and just watch mindless videos, like she said, she's sitting beside you. So it can be a game changer if you truly buy into it and really believe she's with you. And so it takes time, it takes practice, but it's a great concept. And Fulton Sheen challenges not just men, but women to bring Mary into their life every day.
Also, I heard this before because it made me go, "Wow, he's even better than what I thought was," because he's preaching and everyone loved it. And I hear towards the end of his life, he acknowledged, owned up to the idea of sometimes back in the day, I wanted the applause, and it changed him at that time. But then afterwards, he apologized for it. He goes, "Yeah, let that get in my way. I owned up to it. That's not what I'm here for. I'm not here for the applause." Did you know about that?
Yeah, and he writes that in his autobiography, Treasures of Clay, in that he has this sorrow with saying, I got caught up in the moment. I, preferred to be seen, and it was very difficult for him. I think, he was like a rock star. I mean, again, everybody knew his name, of course, what he looked like, because he was on the cover of Time magazine. He was on television. But yet, I think he was convicted that, was I pointing people to Christ? And that's where I think he was sorrowing, is that he missed opportunities because he got caught up in, Fulton Sheen, sit here, and, well, you're so great and all this. But there was times where he said, I could have preached Christ. I could have shared Christ, or hopefully people would imitate me in a better way. Again, it was that he wrestled with that for many years. And I know people that lived with Fulton Sheen said that was always a cross he carried, was being pulled in to this fray of the paparazzi and all this other stuff, but yet saying, I'm on a mission to bring souls to Christ and help me not get distracted or lose my focus. And so, again, he admitted that in the end of his life in his memoirs. And so, again, we all can learn that. I mean, we all want ratings. We all want views. We all like to be a little bit more popular. And I always say,
for him to admit it, I thought that was even greater, because not too many people admit that, hey, that was my bad. I'd let that happen to me.
Yeah, I know. And I think this is the whole thing, is that he warns all of us. The world will allure you in. There's trappings. And he was trying to say, this is a trap that we can all fall into. So I'm just warning you, even as I'm about to die, I'm warning you, so again, food for thought for all those who are on social media, and not
even
just social
Canaanite
media.
saints did that. I can't remember, was it Vincent Ferrer or somebody? They did a sermon, maybe it was St. Anthony, and everyone came out because they heard the great orator was coming out, and he preached and nothing happened. And then hours later, he preached the exact same thing and everyone converted. And someone asked, what happened? He goes, the first time I preached, the second time I let God preach.
Yeah. I think Sheen has a very powerful video that you can see on YouTube. It's called The Art of Preaching. I watch it every so often, and he was giving reflection to the Dominican friars and giving them a retreat. And again, it's well titled The Art of Preaching. And he really stressed that you need to preach Christ and him crucified. And that's what Fulton Sheen did so beautifully. He always pointed to the cross. This great love story of Jesus laying down his life for his friends and actually completing his mission. Again, when you look at the history of man, all of us came into this world to live. But Fulton Sheen makes it very clear that our blessed Lord came into this world to die. That was his mission, to come and to teach, preach, and heal, but to die for us. And again, that's one thing that I can't get out of my head, is that Fulton Sheen has said, remember this great love story, and we need to preach Christ and him crucified. And, he talks about Paul and preaching to the Greeks and being an absolute failure because he failed to mention Christ. But then he realized, if I preach Christ and him crucified, I will bring souls to him. And so that's the key. So don't be afraid to mention the cross. Don't be afraid to mention Christ and him crucified as we go out into the world and share God's message of love. And so, again, be bold, proclaim the truth, and don't be afraid of holding up a crucifix once in a while. And, and I think that's one thing that Fulton Sheen said is that many people are taking the crucifix down in office buildings and different places because, again, they're ashamed of what it does to them emotionally. They look at a crucifix and realize it had something to do with it. It was their sin that put Jesus on the cross. And this is one reason why people are trying to take crucifixes down in public buildings in different places. Years ago, it was just normal to go into a Catholic home and find a crucifix in every room, to go into a Catholic school or institution and find a crucifix in every room. But again, people have taken the cross down because they find it offensive. It actually it stirs their soul in a way that they almost run away from it. So again, the power of the cross and preaching Christ and Him crucified. And again, it's what Sheen does best, I think.
There's the Art of Preach. I got your website popped up. So you go to bishopsheentoday.com. There's the Art of Preaching that he was just got done talking about.
Yes. And that website, bishopsheentoday.com, is a labor of love I put together a few years ago. I said to my friend who's a bit more web savvy than me, I said, is there a way we can grab every YouTube video that Fulton Sheen ever produced and every audio recording and kind of put it up on a web server? And we did. And, we were able to track down 137 of his videos. We were able to track down the apps that have his recordings. We found a lot of free downloadable books through the Catholic University of America, their digital website. And so you can listen to Sheen, watch Sheen, read Sheen. And again, it's just amazing what we've come up with. And so bishopsheentoday.com is really your one-stop shop for Sheen. It's what's best about it is almost everything there is free. Naturally, we always love you to buy some books and stuff like that. But again, I think I just try to get people to say, just watch some of his videos. Just spend a little bit of time with him. And all of these seasons of his Life is Worth Living shows and his Bishop Sheen show, these are all just still available today. And the content is amazing. And so, this is what we do. And so, again, bishopsheentoday.com is my little gift to the church to say, you know what? I always said to my kids, if you're not going to listen to me, well, then go to the website and, listen to Sheen on your own, and you'll see it all there. So, again, just a little treasure. We get 1 million visitors every year to bishopsheentoday.com, and I can see why, because there are so many Sheen gems on this website. And again, we're all thrifty, and we're all looking for stuff that's free. So, again, these videos and these audio recordings are all free. So, God love you, and please support us there at bishopsheentoday.com.
You got a few things, 1 or 2 things on there.
Yeah.
Just a little bit.
Yeah, it did. But, we set that website up in 2012. And so we've been adding to it over time. And it's like a sensus fidelium. The next thing you know, you've got thousands of videos. You've got lots of content. So you just keep doing it, and, people get to know you. So, I have radio shows on Radio Maria and, of course, many secular stations. And people will listen to the archive shows on our bishopsheentoday.com website. But I just want to keep sharing Sheen. He's touched my life. He's touched the life of my dad. My dad is a convert because of Fulton Sheen. And again, it's just a beautiful story. And how my dad was listening to Fulton Sheen on the radio in the 40s. And, he was with the Mormons. And, he was going to the Mormon elders of the church, and he'd ask them to unpackage some of the scriptures. And there was days where his elders couldn't answer his questions. But sure enough, Fulton Sheen answered the questions on the radio through the Catholic Hour recordings, and he started to read his books. And by the early 1950s, my dad was convinced that Fulton Sheen had it right and the Mormons had it wrong. And so in 1957, my dad converted to Catholicism. And I have to really say that it was Fulton Sheen that helped him in that journey to make that, they say crossing over the Tiber or whatever they say, but to come from the Church of Mormon to Latter-day Saints to becoming a Catholic was unheard of back then. But my dad made that journey, and I'm so glad. And I have a Catholic father because of Fulton Sheen. And so, and my dad passed away 25 years ago. And when I started to get involved with the Fulton Sheen apostolate in Peoria, my mother came to me and she says, "I want you to have these. These are your dad's Bishop Sheen books that he used to read, and he loved Fulton Sheen." And then I found out the story of his conversion. So again, I never got to thank my dad while he was alive for this gift, but when I start to look at my dad and how he interacted with others, I think Fulton Sheen was his life coach because, again, he just exemplified Sheen's writings and how he conducted himself. So, again, I'm grateful for Fulton Sheen for my father's conversion and so many others too. So, as I said, he's got hundreds of thousands of souls to his record.
Well, appreciate it, Al. Thank you for coming on and talking about it. Again, the website is bishopsheentoday.com, and I'll have the link to the Sophia books as well underneath in the show notes, along with the Bishop Sheen Today website as well. Al, any final words?
Well, again, that battle cry, unless souls are saved, nothing is saved. I think we need to wake up every day and just say, what's most important? Well, saving our own souls and saving the souls of those in front of us, our family members, or and I think we just forget sometimes, we miss the mark. Why were we created? Well, to know God, to love him and serve him in this life, and to be happy with him in the next. So let's try to bring as many people with us on that journey. So again, unless souls are saved, nothing is saved. Well penned by Fulton Sheen back in 1949, and it's still relevant today.
Amen to that. Well, appreciate your time, guys. Go check out his sites. You got plenty of videos to look at. They're all good. And as well, get the books. So, Al, appreciate it, man. And have a great Easter.
Steve, thanks for having me again. We'll be back again, I'm sure, in the next few weeks as we release another book,
Yes,
Fulton
sir.
Sheen.